The moment that changed everything happened on a Friday morning in January, when my courtroom doors opened and in walked someone who'd become the most hated woman on the internet. Someone who'd spent years claiming victimhood, while the world watched her lies unravel in the most publicized trial of the decade. Amber Heard, 38 years old, actress, ex-wife of Johnny Depp. The woman who lost a $10.35 million defamation verdict, whose career imploded after being exposed as an abuser, who'd fled to Spain to escape the consequences. Net worth dropped from $8 million to negative territory after legal fees and the judgment she still owed Depp. She walked in wearing designer clothes she could barely afford anymore, a Gucci blazer, Prada sunglasses, carrying herself with that same defiant victimhood she'd perfected during the trial. Behind her came 4 attorneys, a smaller team than before because she couldn't afford the powerhouse lawyers anymore, 2 publicists still trying to salvage her reputation, and a documentary crew filming for her comeback project about surviving cancel culture and domestic violence. But sitting in the gallery, looking exhausted and afraid, was someone who had no PR team, no documentaries, no platform. Maria Rodriguez, 52 years old, TSA Security Officer at JFK International Airport for 18 years, single mother of 3, immigrant from El Salvador who'd worked her way up from janitorial services to her current position. She wore her TSA uniform with pride, but her left wrist was in a brace from where Amber had twisted it 2 months ago. Her face showed fading bruises from where Amber had struck her, and her eyes held the weariness of someone who'd been doing her job when a celebrity decided rules didn't apply to them. The charges were assault and battery on a federal officer, destruction of government property, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest. According to federal reports and airport security footage, Amber had been flying from Madrid back to New York, trying to rebuild some semblance of a career. At JFK security checkpoint, Maria had asked her to remove her jewelry and shoes per standard TSA protocol. Amber had immediately become hostile, claiming she was being targeted because of who she was, that this was harassment related to the Depp trial, that TSA was discriminating against domestic violence survivors. When Maria calmly explained these were standard procedures for all passengers, Amber had exploded. She'd grabbed Maria's wrist when Maria reached to assist with the metal detector, twisted it violently, then struck Maria across the face when other officers intervened. She'd screamed that she was Amber Heard, a domestic violence survivor, and they were all re-traumatizing her. Then she'd kicked over the TSA checkpoint equipment, causing thousands in damage, before federal officers restrained her.
Airport cameras captured everything. Federal marshals arrested her. And now she stood in my courtroom, clearly believing her narrative of being a domestic violence survivor who'd been unjustly vilified, her celebrity status, and her carefully maintained victim image would make this disappear or at least get her sympathy. What I did in the next 42 minutes didn't just shock the courtroom. It went viral across every platform, reignited the Depp trial debates, sparked conversations about false accusations and real accountability, and proved that in America, when the system works correctly, no amount of victim narratives, no carefully crafted public image, no claims of being cancelled unfairly places anyone above the law when they assault federal officers. If you believe that losing a defamation trial doesn't give you the right to attack workers, that claiming domestic violence survival doesn't excuse becoming an abuser yourself, that judges must defend working people even when facing celebrities who claim persecution, hit that subscribe button right now because what I'm about to do will show you that even Amber Heard faces consequences. Ms. Heard, I began, and immediately noticed she was dabbing her eyes with a tissue, that familiar performance from the trial, the tears that never quite fell. You're charged with assault and battery on a federal officer, destruction of government property, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest. How do you plead? Her lead attorney stood immediately. Jennifer Walsh, a competent lawyer but nowhere near the caliber of the team Amber had during the Depp trial. Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty. And we need to address the context here. Ms. Heard is a domestic violence survivor who was subjected to a brutal public trial that exposed her to unprecedented levels of harassment and death threats. She's been living in Spain trying to heal from trauma. Returning to America, going through TSA security, being touched by officers, this triggered severe PTSD. Her reaction was a trauma response, not criminal behavior. Ms. Walsh, your client twisted a TSA officer's wrist, struck her in the face, and destroyed federal property. Trauma doesn't justify assaulting people doing their jobs. Your Honor, my client spent weeks in a courtroom being called a liar, being mocked globally, having every intimate detail of her relationship dissected. She lost everything. her career, her reputation, her sense of safety. This TSA incident was a manifestation of that collective trauma. Counselor, your client was going through airport security. Standard procedures. She chose violence. That's the issue before this court. I turned to Amber. Ms. Heard, how do you plead? She stood slowly, and when she spoke, her voice had that breathy, wounded quality she'd used throughout the Depp trial. Your Honor, I plead not guilty. What happened at that airport wasn't violence. It was a panic attack. I've been living in fear since the trial. Everywhere I go, people recognize me, people harass me, people film me without consent. When I got to TSA and they started touching me, examining me, I had a flashback to the trial, to being scrutinized, to being violated. I reacted defensively. I shouldn't have, but I was terrified. Ms. Heard, the TSA officer was doing her job. Standard security screening. You claim that triggered you? Your Honor, after what I've been through, yes. Johnny Depp's fans have been stalking me. They've sent death threats. They've harassed me across 2 continents. When that TSA officer reached for me, my body reacted before my mind could process. Fight or flight. That's trauma. Did Officer Rodriguez threaten you in any way? No, but her uniform, her authority, the whole situation, it reminded me of the trial. Of being powerless. Of being judged. Ms. Park, please present the evidence. Federal Prosecutor Lisa Park approached with a tablet. Your Honor, we have complete security footage from JFK Airport Terminal 4, TSA checkpoint audio, and witness statements from 8 TSA officers and 12 passengers. May I play them? I nodded. The lights dimmed. The first segment showed JFK's busy security checkpoint. Hundreds of passengers moving through efficiently. Amber appeared in line, wearing expensive clothes, large sunglasses, clearly trying to be inconspicuous, but her face was too recognizable. Several passengers noticed her immediately. You could see them whispering, some pulling out phones. Amber's body language became defensive, shoulders tight, head down. When she reached the checkpoint, Maria Rodriguez was professional and polite. The audio picked up every word. Maria's voice, warm and friendly. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'll need you to remove your shoes, jacket, and any jewelry for screening. Place your bag on the belt, please. Amber's voice, immediately sharp. Why? I'm not wearing anything that would set off the detector. Maria's voice, still patient. It's standard procedure for all passengers, ma'am. Just to ensure safety. Amber's voice, getting louder. This is because of who I am, isn't it? You know who I am. You're doing this because you're one of them. One of his fans. Maria's voice, confused. Ma'am, I don't understand. I'm just following TSA protocol. Amber's voice. Don't play dumb. You recognized me. Everyone recognizes me. And you're targeting me because of the trial. This is harassment. Maria's voice, professional but firmer. Ma'am, I treat all passengers the same. These are federal security requirements. Please remove your jewelry and shoes. Amber removed her sunglasses, her face showing anger and that victim expression simultaneously. The camera caught passengers filming on their phones now, recognizing the scene unfolding. Amber's voice. You know what I've been through. You know what it's like to be a domestic violence survivor and have the whole world call you a liar? And now you're standing here with your little authority, treating me like a criminal. Maria's voice, calm. Ma'am, I'm not treating you like a criminal. I'm asking you to follow the same procedures as everyone else. That's all. Amber reluctantly removed her jewelry, throwing it roughly into the bin. She kicked off her shoes aggressively. She walked through the metal detector, which beeped. Maria's voice. Ma'am, I'll need to do a brief pat down. It's standard when the detector alerts. You can request a private screening if you prefer. Amber's voice. Loud enough for everyone to hear. A pat down? You want to touch me? This is assault. This is re-traumatization. I'm a domestic violence survivor and you want to put your hands on me? Maria's voice. Ma'am, it's completely optional. We can do a private screening, or you can remove any remaining metal items and try again. Amber's voice. No, you're not touching me. None of you are touching me. I know my rights. Other TSA officers were approaching now, sensing the situation escalating. A supervisor, an older man, tried to intervene calmly. Supervisor's voice. Ma'am, I'm Supervisor Chen. Let's step aside and discuss this calmly. We can accommodate. Amber's voice, screaming now. Accommodate what? My trauma? You people don't care about trauma. You didn't care when I testified about being beaten. Nobody cared. They all called me a liar. And now you want to violate me again. Passengers were recording openly now. The scene was chaos. Maria remained calm, trying to de-escalate. Maria's voice. Ms. Heard, nobody is trying to hurt you. We just need to complete security screening so you can board your flight. That's all. Amber moved suddenly toward Maria. The camera caught it clearly. She reached out and grabbed Maria's extended wrist, the one Maria had been using to gesture toward the private screening area. Amber twisted it violently. Maria cried out in pain. Other officers moved in immediately. Amber, still holding Maria's wrist, struck her across the face with her other hand. The slap echoed through the terminal. Amber's voice, hysterical now. Don't touch me. You're all against me. This is what they do to survivors. They silence us. They hurt us. And everyone just watches. Officers restrained her. She was fighting, kicking. Her foot connected with the TSA checkpoint scanner, knocking it over. Expensive equipment crashed to the floor, screen shattering. Amber's voice. I'm Amber Heard. I'm a domestic violence survivor. This is assault. You're all assaulting me. Someone film this. The world needs to see how survivors are treated. Multiple passengers were filming. Federal air marshals arrived. They tried to calm her. She continued fighting. Amber's voice. Johnny sent you, didn't he? His fans are everywhere. You're all part of it. The conspiracy against me. I won't be silenced. It took 4 officers to get her in handcuffs. She was still screaming about conspiracy, about domestic violence, about being persecuted, as they led her away. When the lights came back on, the courtroom was completely silent. I looked at Amber, whose face was wet with real tears now, not the performed ones, but genuine tears of someone who might be realizing her narrative was finally failing her. Ms. Heard, you just watched yourself assault a federal officer who was doing her job. You twisted her wrist, struck her face, destroyed equipment. Do you still maintain you were having a trauma response? Jennifer Walsh stood quickly. Your Honor, my client was clearly in distress. You can see on the video she was panicking. PTSD is a recognized medical condition. My client's reaction, while regrettable, was involuntary. Ms. Walsh, your client had a conversation. She made accusations. She grabbed someone intentionally. She struck someone intentionally. That's not involuntary. That's assault. Your Honor, we have Dr. Amanda Sterling prepared to testify about complex PTSD in domestic violence survivors and how triggers can cause defensive reactions. Counselor, I've reviewed the psychiatric evaluation. Your client has trauma, but trauma doesn't give anyone a free pass to hurt others. Officer Rodriguez, please approach. Maria stood slowly, wincing as she moved her injured wrist. She walked forward with quiet dignity, the kind working people develop when they're used to being invisible until someone needs to blame them for something. Officer Rodriguez, tell me about your job. She spoke with a slight accent, her English careful and clear. Your Honor, I've been a TSA officer for 18 years. I came to America from El Salvador when I was 24. I started cleaning airport bathrooms. I studied English at night school. I took every training course I could. I worked my way up to security officer. It's a good job. I'm proud of it. I keep people safe. Have you had difficult passengers before? Many times, Your Honor. People get frustrated with security procedures. I understand. Flying is stressful, but we have rules for everyone's safety. I always try to be respectful, to explain calmly, to help people through the process. Had you heard of Amber Heard before this incident? Yes, Your Honor. I knew about the trial. Everyone did. I watched some of it on my breaks. I felt bad for both of them. Relationships can be complicated. I didn't have strong feelings about it. I just knew she was famous and had been through something difficult. Did you treat her differently because of who she is? Never, Your Honor. I treat every passenger the same. Rich, poor, famous, unknown. Everyone follows the same rules. That's my job. Tell me what happened that day. Her voice trembled slightly. Your Honor, Ms. Heard came through my checkpoint. I asked her politely to remove her jewelry and shoes, like I ask hundreds of people every day. She immediately became hostile. She accused me of targeting her. I tried to explain it was just standard procedure. She got angrier. When the metal detector beeped, I offered her options, a private screening or trying again. She started yelling about being a survivor, about trauma. I tried to stay calm. I wanted to help her. Tears filled her eyes. Then she grabbed my wrist and twisted it so hard I thought it broke. I've never felt pain like that. And then she hit me. In the face. In front of everyone. While screaming that I was assaulting her. Your Honor, I'm 52 years old. I've worked since I was 13 years old back in El Salvador. I've cleaned houses, cleaned offices, cleaned airports. I've been treated rudely by passengers. But I've never been attacked like this. And then to be accused of assaulting her, when all I did was my job. She looked at Amber directly. Ms. Heard, I'm sorry for what you went through with your ex-husband. I truly am. Nobody deserves abuse. But I didn't abuse you. I asked you to take off your shoes. That's not trauma. That's not assault. That's just airport security. The courtroom was silent except for Maria's quiet crying. I looked at Amber, who was staring down at the table, tissue pressed to her face. Ms. Heard, you heard Officer Rodriguez's testimony. She was doing her job. She treated you with respect. Yet you attacked her and claimed she was assaulting you. What do you have to say? Amber stood slowly. When she spoke, her voice lacked the performance quality this time, just exhaustion. Your Honor, I know Officer Rodriguez was just doing her job. I know she didn't mean to hurt me. But in that moment, with everyone staring at me, filming me, recognizing me as the woman the internet hates, I felt trapped. I felt like I was back in that courtroom with everyone watching me, judging me, calling me a liar. And when she reached toward me, something in me just broke. So you're saying you couldn't control yourself? I'm saying trauma makes you do things you wouldn't normally do. I'm saying being called a liar for 3 years makes you defensive. I'm saying losing everything makes you scared. And scared people lash out. Ms. Heard, Officer Rodriguez lost nothing. She didn't call you a liar. She didn't judge you. She asked you to remove your jewelry. Yet you hurt her because you were scared of ghosts. Amber's voice rose. They're not ghosts. Johnny Depp's fans are real. The death threats are real. The harassment is real. Every day someone calls me a liar, tells me I deserve to die, tells me I ruined an innocent man's life. I can't go anywhere without being recognized and hated. That's real trauma. Ms. Heard, I'm not minimizing what you've experienced. But Officer Rodriguez is not responsible for any of that. Stand up. She stood. Body language defeated now. The performance finally dropped completely. Ms. Heard, you're 38 years old. You're an intelligent, educated woman. You made serious accusations against your ex-husband. A jury found those accusations were defamatory. You lost. Whether you believe you told the truth or not, you lost in a court of law. And now you're traveling around attacking people who have nothing to do with that trial because you're angry about the outcome. Here is my finding. You are guilty of assault and battery on a federal officer. The video is clear. You intentionally hurt Officer Rodriguez. You are guilty of destruction of government property. You are guilty of disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. These are serious federal charges. Her face went pale. Your Honor, I have a daughter. She's only 3 years old. I'm her only parent. Please. Ms. Heard, many parents go to jail. It's unfortunate, but actions have consequences. Here is your sentence. For assault and battery on a federal officer, 3 years in federal prison. For destruction of federal property, 1 year concurrent. For disorderly conduct and resisting arrest, 6 months concurrent. Total of 3 years federal custody. The courtroom erupted. Her attorneys were arguing. Her publicists were already crafting statements. Amber herself looked genuinely devastated. Jennifer Walsh was shouting. Your Honor, 3 years federal time for a PTSD episode? Ms. Heard has a young child. She has no prior violent convictions. This is excessive. Counselor, your client attacked a federal officer at an airport. That's taken extremely seriously. Federal sentencing guidelines support this sentence. Additionally, I'm ordering Ms. Heard to pay $500,000 in restitution to Officer Rodriguez for medical expenses, lost wages, pain and suffering, and punitive damages. I'm also ordering her to complete anger management and trauma therapy before release. And I'm issuing a permanent ban from flying without completing TSA pre-check evaluation and clearance. Amber found her voice. You're taking away my ability to travel? I can't see my daughter? She's in Spain. Ms. Heard, you should have thought about that before attacking a federal officer. Your daughter can visit you. Video calls exist. Actions have consequences. This is cruel. This is excessive. I'm being punished for being a domestic violence survivor who fought back. Ms. Heard, You're being punished for assaulting someone at an airport. Officer Rodriguez is not your abuser. Johnny Depp is not here. This is about you hurting an innocent woman doing her job." She shook her head, crying harder now. "Nobody understands. Nobody cares what I went through. Ms. Heard, many people suffer trauma. Most don't assault federal officers. Bailiff, take her into custody." Officers approached. Amber didn't resist this time. She just stood there crying as they handcuffed her. As they led her away, she looked back at Maria. Amber's voice, quiet, "I'm sorry. I really am sorry." Maria nodded slightly, no words, just acknowledgement. Within an hour, social media exploded. Johnny Depp's name started trending alongside Amber's. People who'd followed the trial celebrated. Others called it excessive. Domestic violence advocates were split, some saying trauma isn't an excuse, others saying the system failed a survivor again. 2 months later, the Federal Circuit Court upheld my sentence. Their opinion stated, "Assault on federal officers cannot be excused by personal trauma unrelated to the officer's conduct." Ms. Heard's high-profile defamation loss does not entitle her to special treatment or leniency. Amber Heard is currently serving her sentence at FCI Danbury in Connecticut. Maria Rodriguez received her restitution and continues working at JFK, where she's become an advocate for TSA officer safety. She gave one interview saying, "I hope Ms. Heard gets help. Real help, not for cameras but for herself. Everyone deserves healing, but healing can't come at the expense of hurting others." If this story moved you, subscribe. Share it with anyone who needs to understand that losing a trial doesn't justify violence, that being a survivor doesn't excuse becoming an abuser, that working people deserve protection from celebrity rage. Amber Heard used her victim narrative in my courtroom. I gave her 3 years and proved that in America, no one is above the law.